Hi people, how you guys doing? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. It's Sandra here and I'm back again with another video that hopefully we are all gonna engage on, okay? So this is a video of Douglas Murray and a Muslim girl. Basically, Douglas is gonna be schooling her on today's video and we all know how that all goes, okay? So without no further ado, people, let's just hop right into the video.
Got to be very, very careful that we don't end up lambasting the freest and most generous countries.
You're about to watch Douglas Murray address an accusation thrown against Europe, and by extension, white people, that what they do for Africa boils down to a white saviour complex. Now that's pretty shocking, isn't it? In a debate that happened years ago in Doha, the floor was opened for the audience to ask questions. One of them, a Muslim lady named Asma from Kenya, turned to Douglas and said,
"And do you think it's judicious for these people in Britain, for example, you talked about how Britain is giving aid to these countries in Africa, it's judicious for them to give this much money to these countries but without even listening to their needs? So this only contributes to the white saviour complex that is currently a big issue in..."
Before we get into Douglas's epic response, let me quickly jump in and define what white saviour complex means, seeing that's an epithet that's being thrown around a lot these days. The term refers to white people helping black people only to look like white saviours. The suggestion is that the helper only wants to feel good about his good deeds and does not care about the person whom he is assisting at all. Now, here is how Douglas responded to this sort of accusation. He, straight up, wasn't having any of it.
Well, there is a saying we have, damned if you do and damned if you don't. If it's the case that if we don't give aid, we'd be accused of not giving aid, and if we do give aid, it's a white saviour complex.
But then, Douglas conceded to one thing.
We can all give aid better, for sure, and I just gave, in my opening remarks, what I think was a serious suggestion for one very good use of aid, which is to prioritise it in the region and in the neighbouring countries of places people are fleeing from. But, I mean, as I say, I would refuse as well to see the multifarious problems that exist in your own home country and sadly across the continent of Africa.
Back to Douglas in a sec. Why was the lady so quick to point fingers at Europe's magnanimity for the myriads of problems plaguing her country, and by extension, the continent of Africa? Are we to be blamed for the current political instabilities, bad governments and tribal wars happening in these places? Before we proceed, kindly hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on Douglas Murray's provocative debates. Next, another person in the audience claims that the main reason migrants are moving to Europe is because wealth is moving out of the developing world in form of debt repayment to the developed world. Here's how Douglas responded to that.
No, I don't. Again, I repeat the fact there are no simple answers. And if it was simply the fact that you could, I don't know, do a debt default or something and solve the whole migration issue, then that would be great. But it just isn't the case.
Now watch as Douglas hits the nail at the head with these rhetorical questions.
You think that if for instance, all African countries were allowed to default on debt, that they'd become burgeoning, flourishing societies? You think that the problem across, for instance, sub-Saharan Africa isn't just unbelievable greed and theft by politician after politician? You think...
There you have it. But Douglas wasn't quite done.
You think that if you just wrote off the debt, that would stop being an issue and everyone would become transparent and clean in their dealings with money? I mean, the problems are much deeper than this. They're much deeper than just a simple solution like that.
Granted, historically, Europe colonised foreign countries for reasons ranging from persecution in their own countries to the search for riches and economic benefits. But then, it is really easy to simplify and accept biased information instead of being open-minded. It's quite untrue to believe that European countries were the only ones to conquer and colonise others. Every region has done similar atrocities against others, if you go back in time far enough. But that's by the way. Now, one of the debaters sitting across from Douglas, another anti-Europe activist, made a point which drew a resounding applause from the crowd.
We call brown people migrants. We call white people who go abroad to work expats. This is really important. Right.
However, Douglas, as if he had prepared ahead of time for her point, gave a response that was both fitting and truthful.
Firstly, by the way, migrants versus expats, there's a very clear reason. It's expected, rightly or wrongly, that expats don't stay in the country and bring up their families and stay for generations. The assumption with migrants is, currently has been in recent generations, that they are going to stay and that it's going to be a multi-generational thing.
Personally, I think calling these people refugees is according them respect that they do not deserve. In reality, most of them are actually callous invaders. Whereas some refugees may intend to leave for home as soon as possible, invaders intend to stay and take over. So the present group of refugees certainly belongs to the latter, and hopes of integration are misplaced since they won't, as we can see in the Turks in Germany and the Maghreb refugees in France. No multicultural society in history ever survived for long, and typically ended up with one group massacring the other, as the most recent example of Hutus and Tutsis in Rwanda showed us. To expect otherwise is sheer arrogance or simply insanity. Next, Douglas turns to everyone on stage, throwing shade at Europeans, and asks a question that leaves the whole audience speechless.
I think we've got to be very, very careful that we don't end up lambasting the freest and most generous countries. And I would just urge, as a call to, as it were, moral caution on this, urge you in this room and people watching, how many people have you made citizens of Qatar from Syria? How many? Okay.
You could have heard a pin drop in the room. Now, the truth of the matter is that Europeans are pacifists. We are, generally speaking, liberals in our thinking. This is why we assume that everyone is as kind, respectful and educated as we are, because we all have our heads in the sand and can't face the reality that we opened our borders to our enemies. I mean, the same people from the East and South we give money to actually hate us and our culture. I mean, let's face it. Islam hates Western liberal culture. They consider the West degenerate and pornographic. But it's too late to stop them from coming since they are already here. Worse still, many of them now have voting rights. That's game over. Now, guys, it's high time we all stood up and demand a change. What are your thoughts on this? Should Europe continue to accept so many refugees? Let us know what you think in the comments section.
I honestly feel like that statement he made about damn if you do, damn if you don't, because aside the fact that it actually translates into every aspect of life, it definitely certainly fits the description of today's video or the topic of discussion. Because what else do they really want? Do you want help from these countries, or you don't want help from this country? Honestly, just a black and white situation. Because, and I don't know, the angle that they seem to be speaking and demanding from just honestly seems like an angle of entitlement. And I don't recall a situation where that put them in a place of entitlement, honestly. Because why are you needing aid from these European countries, from these white countries, and you feel sort of offended when they come to help, and you term it white savior complexity or whatever they said? I know that there are a couple people who are white people who do things for people of certain race just so that they would seem as a savior. Because to be honest, I feel like that mentality is still alive in some people. But when it comes to when it boils down to situations like this, I don't even think that that should be something that would come to somebody's mind or something that should even be brought up or be a conversation. And I'm just like, what Douglas said is just what it is. Because them if you don't, them if you do. Because where is the middle ground? There's no middle ground. There's always going to be somebody or a body or a set of people who are going to feel offended or who are going to feel some type of way concerning certain things. Maybe you help them. There are going to be people who are going to appreciate it, and some people are going to say this is coming from a white savior complexity. And the people who you don't, they're going to be like, you're mean, you're uncaring, you don't care about us, you have the ability to give aid to us, but you're objecting to. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just gonna say that in every situation, people should do as much as they can or as much as they want to, because if you're doing things to please certain people, regardless of the fact if they have the rights to the sense of entitlement or not, they should honestly just do them. Okay? But anyways, we did get into this honestly, and this was actually quite interesting and definitely an eye opener, and to be honest, a food for thought, because the sense of entitlement I could get from this video was actually very shocking to me. And I'm just like, where could it come from? Like, is it meant to be there, or am I the one who's like ignorant? So anyways, that's one of the reasons why I did enjoy getting into this video. I want to know what you all think about this video down in the comment box. Please do share your thoughts, your opinions with me. I'm really gonna appreciate it. But we have come to the very end of today's video. Thank you all so much for joining me. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions, as I already said, down in the comment box. And I'll on to the very next one. Hopefully we get to convey here. Let's keep on staying safe and healthy. Bye.